Welcome back, YouTube. This is Marcus with DesignIY, and you're watching another episode of our bathroom renovation. Today we're going to take you behind the scenes to give you a look at what's happening with the plan views and all of the information that we gathered before we even started, and again how we're going to tweak that based on the information that we have now after the demolition. So let's dive right in. What's all this information? Well, these two screens hold the information that we collected a long time ago, right after we purchased the house. These are measurements of all the windows, doors, and walls for the entire house. And then these are the photos to show me all the things the measurements didn't capture. Between these two bits of information, I was able to make this, which is a 3D model of the entire house. So see, we've got the entire house there. But today we're just focused on the bathroom, so I'll zoom back in here. This is Sketchup, a 3D modeling program. It's free to use. I'll have links to that in the description below. So give it a shot, but go look at some tutorials that are already on YouTube. I'm not going to get into how to use SketchUp. That's a video of its own, and there are several already out there. Excellent tutorials out there. So take a look at those. If you want me to make one in the future, drop me a comment and we'll see what we can't do. But utilizing that free program SketchUp, I was able to come up with this plan. We're going to go over the particulars of this plan today. So when you're designing a space, there are a lot of things involved, and we are going to make videos on every single one of those topics because they deserve a video of their own. But if I was to break it down into two giant sections as far as design is concerned, you've got your pretty part, your aesthetics, or your form. We're going to call it the form. And then you have your functional part. We're going to call it function. So we have form and function, right? So you have to decide for yourself in your own plan, and I had to decide for myself, are we doing function over form or form over function? What's more important? In this particular aspect, and because I'm a designer, aesthetics are a little bit more important than function. I'll put up with something if I have to, as long as it looks good. That being said, I just wanted to point out some of the major differences from what we took out to what we're going to be putting back in. You can already see that the toilet is in a different location. So it's actually up against the right wall originally, up against this wall, and we're going to flip it over to this direction here. Another big thing that I'll mention, and you'll have to see this on the photos above, is that we have a HVAC vent. It's way too large for the room. It's way too large for the ductwork that it's attached to, and it's right outside the tub. So all that water, right when you're getting out of the tub, is going straight into the air duct. Just not a very ideal location for it. So we're going to be rerouting this over to behind the door. The tub is going to be pretty much in the same spot. The vanity is pretty much in the same spot, but the toilet is flipping. And then we've removed the storage, and in order to get more storage, I've left this space open for a tall cabinet, which I haven't figured out yet. So that's the plumbing, that's the HVAC. Another thing I'll mention is that during demolition, we actually removed plywood and metal tile and plaster and lath from the ceiling. We gained somehow 5 inches-ish of ceiling room. So that definitely goes into factor when we're talking about the amount of tile that I need to buy for the backsplash that I have designed on the vanity, and then the tile surround for the tub area. But other than that, it doesn't affect a whole lot. Now, electrical, the good news is I was planning on replacing all the electrical anyway because I have knob and tube. But what I didn't expect to find was all the fly tapping, whatever you want to call it, where people are splicing wires outside of a junction box in the middle of a wall and then just burying it behind plaster so that somebody someday when that splice fails is going to have a fire in the middle of their wall, and they're not even going to know it until, of course, it's way too late. So we're getting rid of all of those wires, and we're going to rough in new, which means I wasn't limited to the existing rough-ins for things like the lighting or the vent fan, which is excellent because our plan calls for a much different lighting location over the vanity. Originally, we had one single vanity bar over the vanity, and that's a very common thing to do. And then the vent fan, of course, on the ceiling, which we actually didn't change a whole lot the location of, just because it was already in a good location. But the lighting over the vanity, you can see that instead of one vanity bar light mounted to the wall, I decided to go with this idea of like a vertical emphasis, maximize the thought of having those higher ceilings. And I'm hanging pendant lights on either side of the mirror, hang them down to about a sconce height, but that just means our rough end for the electrical is going to be close to the wall, but in the ceiling instead. So we've got to do rough ends there for the electrical. We're also moving our switch locations to beside the door. Right when you open the door, you should be able to flip on the switches. I think that's a lot more convenient than having to go all the way the depth of the door and flip the switches there. Now this does get into some interesting things as far as guidelines and codes are concerned, but I was able to justify it in my own uses. You can't hit all the guidelines, right? Codes, you have to hit all of them. So there's that. But that is the functional part, right? This was just walking you through the changes. There is a functional part to this that once you come up with this plan, you gotta double check it with the guidelines. And the guidelines I'm referring to are National Kitchen and Bath Association's guidelines for bathroom design, or guidelines for kitchen design when we get to the kitchen portion. Their abbreviation, NKBA, National Kitchen and Bath Association. Just put that abbreviation in there into like a search engine and put bathroom guidelines after it, and a PDF will pop up, and you'll have the whole PDF here of your guidelines. For instance, the very first one is the door entry, so entry into the actual space. And I love the way that they have this laid out for you, because they have the recommended opening width, then they have the minimum allowable opening width, and then a code requirement if there is one. And then lastly, they have the access standard, which is a different set of guidelines for handicap accessibility if you're designing your bathroom to be handicap accessible. Again, they have a whole list of guidelines that I have to double check everything, and you're not going to hit all of them. If you do, that's great, but it's not new construction when you're renovating. You're renovating something old, so you might be constrained. That being said, everything checks out, and this is the new design that we're going after. So again, pretty much the same thing except for the toilets moving. We've got new electrical rough ends, and HVAC's got to go over. The only other things that we uncovered when we did the demolition were rotted subfloor. So we're basically going to cut this bathroom in half and just replace that half of the subfloor before we start roughing in things like the tub, and then laying some cement board for the tile. So that's it for this video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed seeing some of what goes on behind the scenes when this whole renovation thing's happening. Like, what is he planning? Why are you putting that there? And it gives you a little bit of a precursor to what to expect when we go putting everything back together. For right now, if you like this video, found it insightful, found it helpful in any way, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down if you absolutely hated it, but give me a comment and tell me why you hated it so I can earn your thumb in the next one. For right now, this is Marcus at DesignIY, and we're signing out. See you guys later.